All right, welcome back, and this is part two. I guess I should have written that. All right, part two of solving quadratic equations, and we're going to do that by factoring. All right, thank you for tuning in to Mr. Glenn, and this is Driving Math. Okay, and so we are going to take this particular problem. We're going to solve it, of course. But it's a quadratic equation, so we're going to have to factor. So what you would have seen, and I wrote it here, sorry, so I don't have to write it here. So what you would have seen on the problem, if they wanted you to solve, they would say factor or simplify or something like that. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 20 from both sides. Right. And so I don't have enough space, so I'm going to rewrite it as 2r squared plus 3r minus 20, right? It ends up equaling 0, right? So now we're going to break this down even further, okay? Because this is a trinomial. Previously, we worked on an expression. Now we're going to be working on it as an equation. So we're going to take negative 20 and 2, and we're going to multiply that to get negative 40, right? We multiply that together. And so we're going to break down negative 40 to see which terms give you positive 3. Okay. All right. So here we go. So you know that the larger factor is going to be a positive. So negative 1 and 40, which you know if you go back on part 1, it kind of gives you these already, but we'll write them down. Negative 2, 20, 4, negative 4, 10, negative 5 and 8. That's a 5. If we add these two together, we would get a positive 3, right? So now we're going to have to rewrite it, the equation. I'm going to erase this, okay? There's going to be 2r squared. The numbers that I had were plus 8r minus 5r minus 20 equals 0. Then we're going to factor by grouping. We're going to break down and take out 2r is going to be our greatest common factor, because 2 and 8, the greatest common factor is 2. And then this is an r, sorry. Okay, this is also an r. Gotta work on my handwriting skills. It's not a v. Okay. And then once I reduce out that, I'm left with r and here plus 4. Now here I'm going to factor out negative 5 because the first term of this binomial is a negative, and I can't have a negative in my first term. This reduces out, this is r, and then negative 20 divided by 5 is plus 4. And we factor out again, right? Right? The things that they have in common are r plus 4. So r plus 4, right? And we're left with 2r minus 5. Right? Now, if you don't understand what I did there, please go check out my other videos, and it'll make a lot more sense to you. All right? And so now we are going to write r plus 4 equals 0, or 2r minus 5 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. We have r equals negative 4. We add 5 to both sides. We get 2r equals 5. We divide both sides by 2. And we get r equals 5 over 2, which is also 2.5. So my answer, I always mess that up, sorry. My answers are negative 4 or 5 over 2. Okay. Moving on to letter B. It's a quadratic equation because of this exponent. All right, so we need to get this to be 0 on this side, so we're going to add 42d to both sides. Okay. We end up with 6d plus 42d equals 0, right? Because that's what that equals. Then we're going to break down and factor out 6D, right? 6D, right? Not 60. So what we're left with is 6D times 1 plus, well, I missed something. Sorry, that's squared. Apologize. So D, there we go. Let's see. I know I missed something. Plus 7 equals 0. All right, so that tells you that you need to slow down and make sure you go back and check your work. So now we have 6D equals 0, or D plus 7 equals 0. To solve for D here, we're going to divide both sides by 6. D equals 0. Subtract 7 from both sides here. D equals -7. So my answer will be -7 or 0. Okay? And that's how you solve that problem. Okay? Now I am going to solve some more problems. Okay? If you need to pause the video, that's fine. Or skip this section of the video, that's fine as well. Okay? Because I'm just going to show you all these problems and not do too much editing, just to show you how my mind works and how I do mess up as well. Okay? So in this particular problem, we can't move anything over from right to left because we have to distribute. We have to solve. There's something that can be solved. So we end up with -12k minus 36. All right? K squared. So that's what we got. All right? So now we're going to add 12k and 36 to both sides. And so we're left with k squared plus 12k plus 36. Now, as you can see, this side is squared. K to the second power is squared, and 36 is also squared. So we're going to try to see if we can use k plus 6, k plus 6 equals 0. That's what we're going to do. Sorry, I forgot to put the 0 there. Okay, because that's what this equals. And so here's 6k, and this is 6k. Add those together to give me 12k. So yes, these will work. Okay, so on this side I can only have to write one of them. And the reason why I only have to write one of them is because they're the same. So we got k plus 6 equals 0. Subtract 6 from both sides. End up with k equals -6. So -6 is the only answer that will work for this problem to equal 0. All right? Okay. I'm going to have to erase this because the next one is kind of long. So there we go. Long problem. Man, I totally understand if you are having trouble with this, because I did, and I see what you all may miss. It takes a lot of work, but I'm sure you can do it if you put your mind to it. I mean, I did. I had to teach myself this before I taught it to other people. All right, so it's a quadratic equation. There's a second power. All right, so now before we can do anything, we have to do order of operations. Order of operations is parentheses. Here are parentheses, but there's nothing to solve in the parentheses. Exponents, there are no exponents to solve. And then you have multiplication or division. And so the multiplication that we're going to use is distributive property. So we end up with 2x squared plus 10 plus 5x equals 6x squared, right, minus 6x plus 16. Here we have to rewrite this in descending order, so I'm going to switch those. So we have to have 5x plus 10. All right, and so I am going to move from left to right because this 2 is less than this 6. So I'm going to subtract this information from here. Okay, so this ends up being 0. This is 4x squared negative 11x plus 6. Okay, so we're looking for, and this is equal. Now we have to multiply 4 and 6. All right, 4 times 6 is 24. Find the factors of 24 that will equal negative 11. Okay. Now, both terms have to be negative because the middle term is negative and the last term is positive. So negative 1, negative 24, negative 2, negative 12, negative 3, negative 8, negative 4, negative 6. And as you can see, your middle term is going to be negative 3 and negative 8. So I rewrite it as 0 equals 4x squared. I'm rewriting the negative x. Okay, I'm going to go negative 8x because these are, they have a greater common factor, so it's a lot easier to take apart. Negative 3x plus 6. Okay, so now I'm going to factor by grouping. The greatest common factor between 4 and 8 is 2. The greatest common factor between x squared and x is x. And the reason why that is because x is the, or x to the first is the smallest not coefficient, but exponent. So the smaller exponent is the greatest common factor in variables. So we have 2x. We're left with 2x minus. Well, that wouldn't be right. See that? Because I can still factor, so it won't be 2. It would be 4. So it's 4x and then x minus 2. And then here we have a negative 3 because the first term cannot be negative. All right, so that reduces out. That's negative 3. We're left with x minus 2 equals 0. So then we will factor the x minus 2 out and end up with 4x minus 3. And we have x minus 2 equals 0, or 4x minus 3 equals 0. All right, so just to give some more space, x minus 2 equals 0, add 2 to both sides, x equals 2, and 4x minus 3 equals 0, add 3 to both sides, 4x equals 3, divide both sides by 4, x is 3 over 4. So our answer, right, so I write it right here, is going to be 3/4 or 2. Okay? Good stuff, right? Yes, it's a long, tedious process, but somebody got to do it. Okay. Here we go. Almost finished. All right. That's a Z. Everybody make fun of my Z, so I'll use A. All right. So you cannot do 8A minus 8 equals 5. You can't do that. It has to be 0. So in order for that to happen, we have to do the FOIL method, where we do first, that's A squared, outer, that's negative 4a, inner, negative 8a, then last, that's positive 32, right? Positive 32. Negative times a negative is a positive, equals 5. So we can combine like terms here. We end up with a squared minus 12a plus 32 equals 5. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So we're left with a squared minus 12a plus 27 equals 0. All right. So now we're going to look at the last term, okay, to see what will give us a middle term. Right. So that's going to be negative 9 and negative 3. Okay. So negative 9 times negative 3 gives us 27, positive 27. So I have a minus 9, a minus 3 equals 0. So a minus 9 equals 0, or a minus 3 equals 0. So I add 9 to both sides. A equals 9. All right. Same here. Add 3 to both sides. Addition property of equality. Addition property of equality. A equals 3. So my answer will be either 3 or 9. Okay. If you have questions on that, please put them into the comment section. All right. Now I'm going to move on to the last parts of this particular video. And this is solving higher degree equations by factoring. All right. So we have 2x minus 1. I don't know what that is. That's not minus 1. Minus 1. 2x minus 1 times x squared minus 9x minus 22 equals 0. All right. Now, this is already 0. Okay. So if it was not 0, then we would have to distribute. But as you can see, this is 0, so we don't have to distribute. What we have to do is factor. Now this 2x minus 1 doesn't need to be factored. So we can really go ahead and work that. So what it comes out to be is 2x minus 1 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. 2x equals 2. Right? Divide both sides by 2. X equals 1. Right? Now this particular part is saying, or what we should write is x squared minus 9x minus 22 equals 0. But we would have to break this down, right? So negative 22, the factors of negative 22, we have negative 1, positive 1 and 22, and then we have, that should be a negative, and then we have 2 and negative 11, right? So 2 and negative 11, if we add those together, you get negative 9. So we're going to go with x squared. Apologize. We're going to go with x minus 2, right? X minus 2 times x, not minus because this is a plus. X plus 2 times x minus 11 equals 0. All right. So then we move on to x plus 2 equals 0, or x minus 11 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides. X equals negative 2. Add 11 to both sides. X equal 11. Now our answers are, I always mess up. Negative 2, 1, 11. Y'all don't know how much concentration I gotta do to do that. All right, moving on. Let's see if I can fit it right here. All right, so hopefully you have your answers. I do apologize for going so fast, but you can slow this problem down if you need to, slow the video down. All right, so 4w to the third minus 100w equals 0. Okay, so we're going, notice that it's a 0, right? So we need to see what we can do on the left side of the problem. Can we combine these? No, we cannot, because the bases, sorry, not the bases, but the bases are not the same. They are the same, but the exponents are not the same. Okay, so we can't do that. So we need to factor out. We need to take them apart. The greatest common factor is going to be 4w. So we have 4w, and then we're left with w squared minus 25 equals 0. Remember, this is the, you may have to watch a different video, but this is called difference of squares. How do I know that? Because this is a square, this is subtraction. Subtraction means difference. 25 is also a perfect square. So we're going to have to rewrite it. 4w, w plus 5, w minus 5 equals 0. Okay, if you don't understand how I got that, make sure you go watch the video with talking about difference of squares. All right, so now we have three problems. 4w equals 0, or w plus 5 equals 0, or w minus 5 equals 0. We're going to divide both sides by 4. W equals 0. We subtract 5 from both sides. W equals negative 5. Here, because we're almost done, I'm getting excited. Add 5 to both sides. W equals 5. So our answers could be negative 5, 0, 5. All right, and that is the last problem of this particular video. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Mr. Glenn, and you're driving, well, I'm driving math for you. Please subscribe, like, share, hit the notification button, and you have an incredible day, or night, or morning, however you like. Bye.